Thank you for joining me on my channel So Stylish with Elsaby. Now for today's video I wanted to talk to you a little bit about sewing with faux leather fabric. Now if you've been following me for a while, you know that I do regular fabric boxes for my South African customers, and our April box is to make your own faux leather jacket. Now in that box I've included everything you're going to need to actually make your jacket, from the snap fastener that you see on my jacket to the ribbing that I've got on the inside that I used for finishing some of my facings. Threads, needles, everything is included. Now also looking at my jacket, I decided that I wanted to make a faux leather jacket that I can be wearing a lot. I wanted to be able to dress it up. I wanted to be able to go and wear it with a t-shirt and with my jeans as well. So I decided to actually do more of a denim style jacket. As you can see, I've got my panels on my leather jacket. I've got this pocket that I've put on there. It's actually just a flap. I didn't go and do a full pocket for myself. Now if you are going to be sewing your own faux leather jacket, you can always follow along with my design and sew along, and that is for my jeans jacket that I've got on my SureFit Academy South Africa. That is basically the pattern that I have used to make my jacket. Only difference is I did a different collar. I did my sleeve also in the leather, not in my French terry like I did for my casual denim jacket. Now if you don't work with SureFit Design's pattern fitting system yet, and you still want to make this sort of style, then I'm going to suggest that you look at Butterick pattern that I'm showing to you here. It is a denim jacket, again very versatile, so it will give you a similar style to what I have. Just remember that if you are going to work with commercial patterns, that you have to go and test that pattern. You've got to make the necessary adjustments. Working with my SureFit Designs and already having designed my denim jacket, I know that the pattern is going to fit me, so I'm not going to be making mistakes or wasting my fabric. Your faux leather is a little bit more pricey than our normal regular fabrics. Now before I move on to my sewing table, just to show you the inside of my jacket and to talk you through what I've done and sharing the tips, I just want to mention that when we are working with faux leather fabric, we are working with a jeans needle. We don't work with a leather needle. Our leather needle is for our real leather. It's got on the side of that needle, it's got a little bit of a cutting, I want to say almost like a cutting edge, so that it goes easily through that leather. With our faux leather, we just need that sharp point of a jean needle. I also just wanted to touch on how you're going to wash your faux leather fabric. Now when we are working with real leather, it needs to be dry cleaned. Faux leather we can wash ourselves, but you're going to make sure that you are turning your jacket so that the wrong side is out. You're going to put it in a laundry bag. You're also going to then wash it for me on a delicate cycle. Now once I take it out and I tested mine, you'll feel that the fabric, because of the composition of it, feels still very wet, even though it went through my spinning cycle, everything. So what I did then, I just threw my fabric into my tumble dryer for like 10 or 15 minutes to get most of that water out of it. And also again, I like testing my fabric before I send it out to my customers. So I just found that short cycle, 10-15 minutes in the tumble dryer, just took out most of that water that was still left in the fabric, and then I just left it to air dry. So always be careful when you are going to be washing it afterwards. We don't want it scuffing, we don't want it catching on anything, so make sure laundry bag, delicate cycle, and then as I said, if it's tumble drying, just a short time, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to just give you a little bit of a close-up of my jacket before I share my sewing tips for sewing with the faux leather. Now I do want to mention that I actually designed this pattern using my personal body measurements. When it came to the bust dart, I used a D cup size for my bust dart, so that gives me more shape in this area so that the fabric actually conforms to my body shape. So if I have to put my hand in there again, you will see that that shape over there is actually allowing a better fit for a D cup size, and that is what I've used now. Now also on the top stitching, I really wanted to have a lot of top stitching on this jacket, so you'll see at the yoke areas on these panel areas, my little flap pockets that I've done, everywhere I could, I have gone and I've done some top stitching as well. So that just really made it more of a designer jacket for me at the end of the day. Now looking at the inside, like I mentioned, I haven't gone and done any lining because of the soft feel that I've got. It's really bonded to, it's like a soft rib knit in any case if I look at the fabric on the inside. I am going to make a second jacket for myself where I'm going to be doing some lining as well. So I've got the option then to wear my jacket with the lining or unlined. Now also this inside area, you'll see on the inside of the collar, that facing in the front, also the waistband, I decided that I wanted to go and add this soft rib knit fabric. I did use some fusible interfacing on it before I did sew it in. And my reasoning behind that was when I felt the fabric, and I would have just had a normal faux leather on the inside as well, it was a little bit, I want to say almost bulky for me. I just had a bit of a bulky feel on the seams, and I decided that I didn't want as much bulk. So to reduce the bulk, I decided then to combine it with this fabric that I have here. And I must say, for me, I've worn my jacket already. I do like having that soft knit fabric on the inside, especially on my neck, on that collar as well. So I've got the soft fabric against my neck. I don't have the faux leather against my neck. For me, that just feels so much better on my body. Now also, if we're looking at the snaps that I've done, I decided to do the snaps on my front. Like I mentioned, there's no pocket. I actually just did the flap, and for me, again, I didn't want bulk going over the bust area, so I decided that I would rather prefer to just have, let me just open it up here, just get this open. There we go. I just wanted this flap, and you'll see again on the inside, again with that soft knit fabric, to reduce any additional bulk on these areas. When I did the sleeves, I did do my elbow dart for my sleeve. This is my regular sleeve that I do get with my dress kit. And then for finishing on the hem here, and I'm just going to fold it this way so you can see, I just finished it again with my soft rib fabric. Now I do want to mention as well, understitching is very, very important. Because of the thickness of the fabric, as soon as I had my seams, it actually didn't sit flat, it felt very thick. So I made sure that wherever I needed to, I did understitching first. Once I've done the understitching, then I went and I did my edge stitching on this area. On the sleeve hem as well, it was first understitching, then I went and did my edge stitch, and I did my second row of stitching there. Waistbands as well, everything, every step that I could understitch, I have gone and I've understitched it. Collar as well. Now, sewing with faux leather, there's a couple of things that we've got to keep in mind, and that is going to help me then to not damage my fabric. It's going to make my sewing process so much easier as well. I'm cutting out that frustration. So the first thing that I am going to suggest for you now is to actually test your fabric. Take some offcuts and you're going to test for me. You're going to make sure that you're happy with your stitch length. My stitch length that I did was between 4 and 4.5. We need a longer stitch length. Then I also lowered my foot pressure a little bit. So if your machine allows for you to change foot pressure, please go and maybe just lower it a little bit. The next thing that I also looked at was my stitch tension, and there again I also lowered it with about a 0.5. My machine is on a 5.5 and I ended up working with a 5 tension on my machine. That gave me the best results. Remember, you're working with your machine, so my settings might not be what your machine needs, but you're going to test it. If you don't test it and you immediately go to your fabric and you start sewing and something goes wrong, the stitch length looks too small or it's not feeding perfectly, and you've got to go unpick those stitches, you've damaged your fabric. On the vinyl side, as soon as that needle has penetrated the fabric, I've got little holes showing, and there's no getting away from those little holes. So I would say really don't skip this. You're going to go and test for me. The next thing that you've also got to consider is when you are putting your layers together, I want you, if possible, if you do have clips, you're going to be using the clips. You're not going to be using pins. The clips just keeps those layers together for me. Again, the fabric is not moving, and I can then easily go and sew. If you don't have any of these clips, it's actually quilters clips, and you do need to use pins, please make sure that you're pinning in that seam allowance. You are wanting to make sure that, again, if there's any of those pinholes showing, it's on that seam allowance, it's not showing on the right side of the fabric. Then let's move on to when we are sewing now. We've now got our right stitch length, we are happy with foot pressure, we're happy with our tension. When we're going to be sewing, and it usually happens when we've got this vinyl that is showing to the top, so the presser foot is sitting on the vinyl, or that vinyl is to the bottom of against my sewing table, you might find that it feels like it's actually sticking to the foot. It doesn't, that feedox doesn't want to pull that fabric through. It feels like you're sewing on one spot, or your stitches are looking very, very small. Then we've got to consider again now, what can I do with my presser foot to actually help guide this fabric through? Now, before I look at presser feet as well, I do want to mention that with my specific fabric, when I did my regular seams, because of this knit bonding that I do have with it, it worked beautifully. It actually just glided under my presser foot. I had no problem whatsoever. The issue actually came when I was opening up and I had to go and do my top stitching. Then I felt that it was actually not gliding under or going smoothly under that presser foot, if I can put it that way. It actually felt like the fabric stuck to my presser foot. Now let's go then to our presser feet and let's have a look at what you can use then. My first option will always be to go to my walking foot. Now with the walking foot, as the feedogs are pulling the fabric at the bottom, I've got this mechanism, and as my needle is moving up or down, I've almost got these little grips on the top of my presser foot, and that is also then gripping my fabric on the top and pulling it through. Now the next option is to go to your regular presser foot, and I know some of you might say, well, I've got a Teflon foot. Go and test your Teflon foot as well. When I tested my Teflon foot, I still wasn't happy with it. It still felt like the fabric wasn't moving under my presser foot. I really felt like it got stuck under that stuck under my presser foot. Now here, when I am going to be using my regular presser foot, I've got to see what can I do to assist it so that the fabric again moves freely under my foot. And here you can go, there's two things you can do. You can either go and use like this Avalon Plus that I have. This is a solvable Avalon Plus. So if I sew with this and I then go and just take a little cloth with water, it will dissolve. Or you can go and put a little bit of a tape under your presser foot as well. Now I used removable tape that I use when I am designing with Surefit Designs. I didn't want to do a regular sellotape. The sellotape, I was just scared, is really going to make my foot very sticky at the bottom when I want to peel it off. So I did my removable tape. When I did this test as well, again, I did get perfect stitches. I was really happy with it. But some areas I found that I still needed to use my dissolvable stabilizer. Now the Avalon Plus is something that if you do machine embroidery, you would know what it is. It's something that we would usually use in the machine embroidery, especially on the top of the fabric. Now I did strips of this, and for those of you that bought the project box, I have included this in the project box for you as well. Now when I did my strips, I basically just did it about my 5/8 or my 1.5 centimeter width that I've done. And because it is clear, it actually made it easy for me when I was doing my top stitching. I could go and just place it on top of the fabric. I could still see my seam there. So when I was doing the top stitching, because I could see the seam, I could guide my foot as well to get a straight stop stitching line. Now I do want to mention at this point that this foot that I have here is my 1/4 inch foot. It's a straight stitch foot. It's only got a small little, and I'm going to try and come close, it's only got that small little opening over there. and I just find that it also again supports my fabric. It helps it feed much better under my presser foot than using my regular foot, which has got a wider opening for zigzag stitches as well. So I opted to rather go with this foot. This, I must say, is my go-to foot because it really gives me the same result as a straight stitch foot. So that is my presser foot that I ended up using as well. And then after I did my seams, it was easy after the top stitching to go and trim this Avalon Plus, and afterwards I just went with a wet cloth up, did a bit of dampness on there, and it just dissolved my Avalon Plus for me. Now let's talk more about sewing now. As I said, I did my regular seam allowance that I've sewn, and then when I wanted to do my top stitching now, I made sure that I did a bit of grading on the seam, and I then went with my fingers and I just press the fabric open to the one side. So my seam allowance is going to one side then. Now this sample that I have in front of me, I've already gone and I've done some top stitching. You can see I still have some of my Avalon Plus on that section. So once I did my top stitching, it was easy to just take my scissor and I just went and I trimmed off the excess of that dissolvable plastic on there. Make sure when you are trimming this, and I'm just going to grab it like this, that you don't cut your fabric. You can see it just glides perfectly, so that I can just remove the excess. I'm just then left with a little bit of plastic in here, so it was easy to take my wet cloth and go and wipe it. Remember, with Avalon Plus, when I do dissolve it, it might feel a little bit sticky. So just rinse that cloth again and just give it a final wipe on that area. But this works so much better than other stabilizer where I've actually got to try and pull it. I can go and damage my stitches or distort those stitches a little bit. Now, once the stop stitching is done, I've then just gone on the inside and I just did a little bit of trimming. That excess fabric that I've got there in the seam allowance, I made sure that, again, I'm just cutting it away on that area. So I've got that smooth, flat seam on that inside as well. So that is how I went and I finished the jacket. And I'm just going to open it up here, just so that you can see again on that area where I have gone and I've trimmed it. Now, working with the faux leather, it's also important that you think ahead and you plan on how you're going to finish that jacket. I have either buttonholes, I can go and do a zip, or I've got these press fasteners as well. Now, for me, buttonholes really is a no-no. With our domestic machines, I just find that I don't get such a beautiful buttonhole on faux leather. Again, with that buttonhole foot, it's really not feeding that fabric through, and I find that sometimes my stitch gets stuck on one spot, and my jacket is pretty much damaged then if I have to go and undo those stitching again where I wanted the buttonholes. So the only two choices that I really consider is going to do my zip or going to do something like this press fastener. Now, I do like the look of the press fasteners because it gives me that designer feel as well. So that is what I decided to do with my jacket. Now, you do get the bigger machines that you can use for press fasteners, but one of my go-tos really is the Prim products. Prim is a really good quality product. I know that any of the metal items that I use is not going to tarnish, it's not going to flake, it's not going to rust. So for me, this is a go-to item that I always work with. And we've got our press fastener. It's called the Prim Anorak, and I chose the 15mm. Now, it comes in this almost like it's actually called black, but it's for me more like a gunmetal almost. It comes in almost like a brass color and in a silver as well. This again is my favorite color, and you've got your full pack that you initially buy, and that includes your tools that you're going to be using with the different I want to say almost like little inserts here that you're going to use. And then once you've actually got this pack, you can always just go buy the refill, and then you can go buy the refill in the different colors because you'll be using this tool over and over again. Now, when I did my press fasteners, and yeah, I'm just going to show you how it worked for those of you that's never worked with the Prim before, is once I've actually, and I'm just going to work with this double layer. Obviously, when I did my jacket, and I'm just going to bring it in here for a second, you can see that on that inside I do have my knit on that area, but that area has been stabilized. I made sure that I've got my fusible interfacing on that area, which is going to support my fabric as well. Now, part of the tools that you do get is you get a little punch, and I'm just going to take it out with this little hole there, and you've almost got, I haven't got mine here, but it's almost like a flat surface that you'll put under the fabric. You're going to put your little metal punch there, and you can go and hammer it to make a little hole then for all these little press fasteners to push through. Now, I don't use that. I've got this tool that I've been using for years and years, and it allows me to do different openings when I'm going to be punching holes in my fabric. The one that I ended up using was actually, I just wanted to see where I am, it was almost the second smallest one that I decided to go for, and I made sure that on my fabric then, if this was my facing, that I marked it clearly where I want my press fasteners to be placed. And once I've got that, I then went and I just made my little hole, and I'm just going to make one in here, and you can just go press it. I just move it a little bit, just making sure that I've got this pushed out, and I've got my little hole in that area. I think with this, I've just got a little bit of fabric still left over there. There we go. I've got a perfect little hole on that area. So I'm just going to show you also now just how to use this tool. I'm just lining my fabric up again. Now, we've got the different inserts. I've got this white one that comes with the prim, and that is really the one that I'm going to be using when I've got that outer side of my press fastener. This one is then for, let's just see, for this section. So all of these ones have got a little picture or a diagram here for you showing which part of that attachment is working with my press fasteners. Now, I've already got these little attachments placed inside this little tool, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to go and put these press fasteners onto the fabric. Now, obviously with your jacket, you would have gone and you would have sewn your facing, you would have done the edge stitching, you would have done the top stitching as well. I've got 2 loose layers of fabric here, so I've just got to make sure I place them in there and everything is lining up. And this side just closes over that area now. And all I have to do now is to take my hammer, and I'm just going to hammer this in place. And I've got my little pink hammer that I always use in my sewing room. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a whack there, and let's see, there it comes. And before I do it, I actually make sure that everything is perfect. It's not going to come out, and that is how easy it is to actually go and use these prim tools. Now, if we look at my jacket and we look at these snap fasteners, it just gives a beautiful finish to my jacket, and it really was easy to go and use my prim product. Now, here I am going to suggest that you sacrifice one of these snap fasteners, take it, test it on your fabric, just so that you can feel how this has got to sit. You've got to make sure that it's secure, and I can't really move this sideways at all. And then also when you're hammering it, make sure you hammer hard enough. If you're not hammering hard enough, it's actually going to leave a little bit of a gap between the snap fasteners, and it's going to come loose at some stage. I want to make sure that I've secured it properly, and that is just really making sure there's enough pressure when you are going to be hammering it. Now, with the different attachments again as well, you've got your attachment for the one side where I've got this closure over there, it's my smaller closure, and then the button side I've got this bigger attachment that I do then put onto my tool. Look at the photo again. I'm going to share the photo as well, the leaflet that comes with that prim fasteners, and you can see clearly how it shows you exactly what you've got to do, so it's going to be easy for you. But again, I want to stress this, you're going to make sure that you mark your placement, that you do a test beforehand, so that you're not damaging your fabric at all. So that is really all I did when I sewed. I made sure that stitch length was correct, I graded where necessary, I wanted to reduce bulk where necessary, so I did my knit fabric on the inside, and then I also made sure that I stabilized we needed. If I needed to do fusible stabilizing on my collar, I did it on the knit fabric for the facing, the collar, and also the waistband on the inside over there. And that is basically all I did to sew my jacket, and to not have a stressful time sewing it. It actually was so relaxing just to make this beautiful jacket. Now, I hope that these tips are going to help you when you're going to be sewing with faux leather fabric. But I want you to always remember that from this faux leather fabric maybe to another one that I'm going to be buying, there might be a slight difference. So I will always go and make sure that I test some of the off-cut fabrics. Also remember, we're all working on different sewing machines, so we've got to make sure that when we are sewing that I've got the correct stitch length for my machine, that I've got my tension correct for my machine. If you can change foot pressure, go play with that foot pressure as well. Always go test the fabric before you start sewing on your jacket. With faux leather, we can't go back and undo the stitching. We can't unpick those stitches. We're going to sit with little holes in the fabric. So you've got to make sure that before you start sewing, everything is 100%. You are happy with the result you're getting on your test fabric. Now, before I say goodbye, I would like to remind you to please go subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates when I am placing new videos as well. So until the next time, enjoy your sewing.